It appears that France has been literally shut down in one of the biggest worker strikes yet. So now on Tuesday, French union activists had displayed their power by cutting electricity to nearly 100,000 homes or offices. Not only that, but you had Eiffel Tower staff walking off the job, opera workers, which is interesting, hospital workers, Air France staff, lawyers, people from across the French workforce are all out there marching in so very large numbers. Now, why are they striking? Curious question, right? Well, it appears that the centrist government of Emmanuel Macron actually has a plan to try to raise the retirement age, which has French people saying, hell no, hold my baguette, because I'm coming for you. So now, across the French capital, union leaders had demanded that Macron, among some of the other attempted reforms, drop the retirement age rate, the plan to raise the retirement age. In fact, Felipe Martinez, head of the CGT union, said this, quote, they should open their eyes. And if they do, they would see hundreds of thousands of French people literally in the streets. Now, Bernard Buffet, to show you how there is actually a lot of public support. In fact, I think half of all French people, according to polls, do support the strikes as of now, even though the strikes have basically shut the country down. Bernard Buffet, getting back to him, he says, and by the way, he's a 63-year-old costume fitter at the Bastille Opera. He's like he basically is retiring in April after 35 years, and yet he is stopping to protest in solidarity. He says this, quote, the government is stuck on reform. They are very arrogant. I love that attitude. How dare the government? I support these young strikers. Yeah, I'm going to retire. I get my retirement, but you know what's not fair? These younger people not getting their retirement. That's what class solidarity looks like. Leave it to the French to do it. Could you imagine, by the way, what would happen if there were massive labor strikes in America? 100,000 people walking off the job. They'd probably send in the military. Oh my God, I can't believe it. The proletariat, they're rebelling. We need to crush them. We need to crush them now. But in France, man, union workers are like, oh no, you're going to try to raise our retirement age. Let's shut down the grid. That'll show them. No, I'm serious. The CGT union on Tuesday carried out what they called targeted blackouts on electricity networks around Lyon and Bordeaux to call attention to the grievances and to flex their power. A little bit of a pun as well in there. Flexing their power by literally shutting off the power. But they're saying, hey, man, look, we control the lights now, bitch. Now what? Oh, you're going to raise our retirement age? No, I don't think so. That's not going to happen. So I think that's really, really strong. If the French know one thing, it's how to flex labor power. Now, in America, as I mentioned before, they would probably try to crush us. But here's the thing. We're already crushed. We have been so beaten down by the corporate establishment that I don't think we could ever have a general strike like what happens in France. And let's be honest, to a lot of Americans, even the best, most well-intentioned people, they would see this as unconscionable. I mean, imagine somebody turns out your lights. Oh, hell no. That actually might bring riots into the streets against the strikers. You could see them getting very, very angry. How dare you do this? I need to get to work. I need power. I need a shower. No class solidarity here in America. And look, I can understand why, because we have been pitted against each other. The classes here in America, like the middle class in America, has been pitted against the poor. The poor have been, pitted against, I don't know, themselves, essentially. while wealthy people basically get away with everything, and they've essentially bought the government. And now a lot of us are actually too busy trying to get to work, working 2 or more jobs just in order to survive. We ain't got the time for a general strike. And so this is what some of the problems here in America are. It's such a different culture. Ironically, French people actually fight their government when they try to cut reforms. In America, people do try to also fight the government, but only when they tell black people, or when they tell Southerners they can't keep black people as slaves. Look, the problem is we do not have a strong labor movement in the country, at least not anymore. There was a time when we actually used to, and it still didn't hold a candle to the French. But look, that happened, that went away before the corruption, or I should say around the time where we had corruption in politics that just began. And then Ronald Reagan, basically increasing the power of corporations, increasing the power of money in politics, and using his power to bust the unions. I mean, that's really when labor started to go downhill in this country. And look, if we want to do any kind of reforms, if we want to even try to protect things that's basically accepted as a weekend, well, we've got to get organized. We do have to become, a country that fights for its workers instead of the corporations. So we could stand to be a lot more generous to the workforce. But unless we do actually get out to the streets and demand real reform, or at least elect politicians who are actually in our favor and don't take corporate money, well, we'll never get reform. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.